Okay, thank you guys for being here. Appreciate it. This is an exciting time. It's a culmination of a lot of work, over a year's worth of work on a lot of these players to get to this point today. And I wouldn't be right if I didn't thank some people. So just bear with me as I do this. And so many people are involved in the recruiting process, beyond numbers you can imagine. And President John Kelly has been involved in the recruiting process with a number of these young men and their parents. Athletic Director Pat Chun did an amazing job on all of our weekends and guidance and things like that. The high school coaches throughout the state and from out of state that we reached out to have all been stand up throughout the process. All of them, our coaches obviously did an amazing job. It all starts with the area coach, and then we cross recruit with position coaches, and coordinators get involved throughout the process for their respective sides of the ball, and did an amazing job. Coaches' families, including my wife and children, because the reality is when we get done with the season, we're right on the road, and the recruiting process continues. So without our families being supportive, we wouldn't be able to get to this point. Our graduate assistants who help in so many ways, our operations crew and administrative assistants, player personnel director Jared Allen did a phenomenal job in terms of guiding us through a lot of the things to get to this point. Our academic support team, professors, people that come over on campus to help us on the weekends. Without all those pieces and all those components, there's no way we put together a class that we're very proud of. With regards to the class, a couple of things that to understand is when we went to this class, the first thing we did was attack what we believed our needs would be from a position standpoint, and those things adjust as you're working your way through the recruiting process. As you're evaluating your own players in your first year, you may adjust where your numbers are by position group. But other than a couple of things, we stayed on task in terms of targeting how many we want on scholarship at each position. So that was our number one goal, was to make sure that we address our needs, and we feel like we did that. Second thing is when I got hired December 17th of 2013, we talked about the I-4 corridor down from Tampa, Orlando, that part down being our first priority in terms of where we were going to recruit and where we were going to pick guys up. We have 20 guys in this class from that area, and I'm excited about that. And it's these are high quality players. A number of these players had high level offers. Some of these kids had major BCS. Some of them playoff level offers as you go back to their spring offers at that point. So we're excited about the fact that we were able to address our needs first with the area that we knew we were going to focus on. 6 from Palm Beach, 5 from Broward, 3 from Dade is what we ended up with. So we're excited. We went out of state on 4 players. Again, you go right back to the needs. 2 offensive linemen, both from the Midwest. Bart Miller did a great job of going up there with a purpose, and that was to find kids that we thought could help us up front with the offensive line. And you know, we're excited about Jack Brashears from Illinois, Brian Beck from Wisconsin, 2 kids that'll bring a lot of things to the table when they come down here. We went outside for a wide receiver, obviously with Ralph Leonard out of Starkville, Mississippi, tremendous player, and I'm excited to get him here. He's an outside receiver. He has length. He's tall. He can run. Got a chance to see some of his all-star clips, which did not make it to Huddle yet, I think, when I was in the school, and he's making some phenomenal catches over major SEC commitments. So it's exciting to see where we can go with him. And then obviously Chandler Dexter, our mid-year tight end, who's here. Like I said, many of our signees had an impressive offer list, but that was never a motivator in terms of us recruiting them. We have the advantage of geography with the majority of our players, with most of them being within a 3 to 4 hour drive, which means we have an opportunity to do a lot of background research and getting to know these players. We like what all these kids bring to the table. We have a lot of players coming from winning programs, championship level programs, and so we're excited about the fact that they're coming in, most of them from programs that know how to win, and we want to bring that into our locker room. Like I said, the offer list was not a motivator. We wanted to fulfill the needs of Florida Atlantic. As you may know, just leading into questions per NCAA rule, I'm not allowed to talk about anybody that didn't send paperwork into us today. So without anything else, I'll open it up for any questions that you guys have.
What would you say was the best thing that you guys did as far as recruiting after sort of having a year to experiment when you first got here?
You know, it's a good question, Nate. With a lot of the guys that stuck with us, and I'll talk about Roderick Archer. There was some big schools that came in on Roderick throughout the process. Roderick stayed loyal. You can't do that if you don't have a really strong relationship with that young man. And where recruiting often separates is when you reach the month of October. I think you guys have heard me talk about this. You're late in the season, you're on minimal sleep, and you're calling those players. And the easiest thing to do is say, you know what, I'll call those players next week. So the assistant coaches and the coaching staff deserve a lot of credit for maintaining that relationship throughout the course of the season, as well as the fact that a lot of these players want to come here and build a program, build one right here in Palm Beach County, and continue this direction that we believe we can head.
I count 6 kids in the secondary, and that's obviously was a need with having to replace 3 starters. How do you feel? Any of these guys ready to step up right away, or is this going to be a process?
Really hard to predict, but this is an influx of talent. These are a group of kids that not only have skills, they also have size. There's some really good length with these guys. There's a few players that really we're going to see where they can contribute the fastest on either side of the ball. 2 examples that come to mind is Kamar Downer from Palm Beach Central. That kid played, I think, everything except for offensive guard. You know, but he's a talent quarterback, wide receiver, running back, DB. He's special talent. And Jaquan Napier, who DB, wide receiver, I think we listed him as an athlete. I mean, those are 2 examples of kids that we'll just see where they can climb the depth chart the fastest and see where they can help us.
Linebacker was also another, I would assume another need for you guys. How do you feel everything went? How do you feel like the last 4 weeks have gone, knowing that you're bringing in a lot of linebackers? See if you can feel that.
Excited about the fact that we, like you said, linebackers in need in terms of numbers, and we're signing 4 linebackers as part of this class. Aziz from Tampa area, you know, comes from a really good program. And Coach Garcia is one of the best. He's old school in his approach, so I know the kind of toughness that Aziz is going to come in with. And Aziz, again, also got approached by some very major schools throughout the process. You know, obviously, Jacob Douglas is someone from Mandarin that we're very excited about. This kid is a very, very good football player. He reminds me of a young man who you may or may not remember named Clint Session from Ely, who I was with at Pittsburgh. He has very similar qualities, and, you know, Clint played with the Colts for a while, and he's someone that can come in and help, potentially help us at linebacker because of how far he's already come along in his game. Jay Minor, we'll see how his body develops. Need to get some weight on him. He's very long, very quick. And then Cantrell Burden had a tremendous senior season. You know, as recruiting has accelerated, the young men that have really good senior seasons, oftentimes programs are filled up and it's hard to find a spot for them. Cantrell Burden, you look at his senior film, and we had him here in team camp, and we were very close to doing something right then. We decided we wanted to see some more senior film, and we really evaluated him, and we loved his senior film. And to get 2 kids from Everglades down in Broward County that played for Art Taylor, the head coach there, I mean, he, again, another guy that knows how to win. You know, taking Deerfield Beach to very, very deep into the playoffs. He's doing a nice job at Everglades. I'm bragging about Art now. You know, Art beat St. Thomas with Cooper City. Art can coach, you know, and we got 2 kids coming from that program. They know what it takes to be successful, and 2 outstanding kids, the other being Richard Williams, the offensive lineman.
I know you spent time recruiting a number of areas, specifically the South and sort of the Midwest and the North. How much does it mean to you that you can get a guy like Ralph from Mississippi in a very SEC-dominated area?
A lot. Yeah, I got to give Brian Wright a ton of credit. Also got to give Quez a ton of credit, because it's Quez's high school. I wish I could give you an answer on Ralph's full recruiting story in terms of who offered, who didn't, you know, his SEC opportunities or lack thereof. We got a call from an SEC school this morning that I'll leave nameless. They called and said, texted us and said, good for Florida Atlantic, you guys just got an SEC level receiver. Ralph's really good, and to go in there into Starkville, the coach really enjoyed meeting him. Ralph comes from a great family, a very stable home, loving parents. Excited to get Ralph here and get him here in May.
When did you know that the other schools that were sort of circling him at around?
Sure. I think through the process of those phone calls, and we do a lot of our phone calls together on Wednesday nights during the season. So as we're passing the phone around and you hear Ralph warm up and start to tell some more personal stories, you start to think, okay, we're earning some trust here. And then when you get them on campus and get to learn more about them, and then the final piece, when you go into the home and you feel the comfort level, there wasn't any anxiety when you walked into the home. There was, again, Brian Wright did an amazing job recruiting him, because when I walked in the door, it was a little bit of a softball. I mean, he was close to making that decision then, and a few days after we left the home, he was an owl.
What are your emotions right now, and how are they different from a year ago today?
Combination of relief, excitement. You're so much, when you're recruiting a group for over 12 months, and when you really know the families, you're emotionally invested. I several stories throughout this process where I was in homes where there's a lot of tears, happy tears, excitement. We're giving their son an opportunity to do something very special and be a part of something. So I was getting to know the recruits at this point a year ago, and really happy with what our class was able to do to come in as a young group and contribute and do some good things. This is different because, again, you're much more emotionally invested across the board. So I'm spent in a good way.
Daniel Parr, already enrolled. I mean, what kind of an influence did that have on the other Palm Beach County kids? This is one of the top recruits in Palm Beach County.
And anytime you get a top recruit, it's going to legitimize the direction of your program and the belief. Daniel Parr was certainly someone that he galvanized our movement. And to stick, we all know who came in after him late, and he didn't waver. And I was talking about this on the radio with the 106.3 guys. Not only is it important because he's from Palm Beach, he's also from Dwyer High School. He's won state titles, but he's a quarterback. All right, and you only sign one of those a year. And every good program that I've had the opportunity or a good season I've been a part of, you've had a really good quarterback. And you're not going to predict anything with Daniel, but he's talented and he's got potential, and I'm excited to see what he can do.
What was the thought process in going junior college to get Dexter for the tight end? Because knowing, Alex was just such a dominant part of your guys' offense. Did you feel like that was a quicker way to get production from the tight end rather than going through either someone like Nate Terry or getting a high school recruit? What
we were looking for there? We felt there was a little bit of a hole in the roster there in terms of numbers, and we needed a guy that could also play online tight end. So that's part of it too, and it's not a new direction. It's something we've always built in. Dustin Bowens showed when we moved him back to tight end as we went through cut-ups, progress. So we're excited about Dustin Bowens' progress. But Nate Terry right now at this point, and he's doing a good job of putting weight on and staying on track that way, but he's more of a flex tight end or an off-the-ball tight end, and we just needed some additional depth at that on-the-line tight end position, the true Y position. So that was our motive there.
What are your initial thoughts of Dexter, knowing that you have 2 years to really groom and develop him versus the traditional 4 to 5 year?
He's very raw, but you can see his body changing right in front of us. He's put on 10 to 12 pounds since he's walked on campus already, as has Trey Rodriguez. Trey came in at 174. He was 187 this morning. So the development piece that's happening, you go back to a year ago, Chuck, everything is in such a different place. In this 8-week period, they've got food, so these kids we're bringing in right now can develop. Because we've taken such steps that way, and you've heard me talk about that. But to go back to your original question, I'm excited about his development and anxious to see what we can get done with him in spring. He's very raw.
What went into the process to decide to get a fullback?
We use one just about every snap. We just call him Alex DeLeon, and we step him back off the line. It's the same position, H-back, tight end. It's the same spot. So really, it doesn't there's have no misconceived notions. We're not going to get into eye backs and go that route. We really, he was so dominant at some of the things that we asked that position to do. It became a no-brainer for us. And we're actually, you're going to hear Coach, well,
When you say he, you mean
Kalel, yeah, talking about Kalel. Actually, tonight when we go upstairs and we show some of the film of these players, Coach Hurd will be the one to talk about them because that's who will be working with them. It's we've had a fullback all along. We just called him a Y.
Well, I mean, it almost sounds like you then went after two different guys to replace Alex. Is that a fair assessment?
Yeah, that is a fair assessment. Yeah, we signed in our minds, when you look at our board, we signed 2 at the tight end spot, one of them being Kalel.
Is he capable of catching the ball?
Yeah, he does. He has nice hands, yeah. And again, the third thing that jumps out to you on film is he is physical, and he enjoys that part of the game. You know it the second you talk to him. I'm excited for you guys to meet him.
Is he also kind of a short, you like him as a short yardage presence, goal line presence? I mean, is that his?
Potentially, but again, you know, so many times on our first and second down offense, those things that H-back position does fits right into what he can do to help us. So.
You've got last year's class, this year's class. How much more competitive does this group, I know they're young, but make you in Conference USA?
That's just too hard to predict at this point. You know, we got to see how they develop when they come in here. How quickly they can learn and learn what we're doing. But I wouldn't make any predictions. This is a very good league. You know, Doc Holliday is and his crew at Marshall. They're right there at, depending on what service you look at, either 1 or 2. We're both right there in the terms of the rankings. So, and this is a very well coached league. So we just need to continue to get better, and this influx of players and stability in the program will help us make progress.
You were able to get some kids who already were committed elsewhere to sort of flip. One of those kids was Richard Williams. How much does it mean to you to get a kid late in the game like that, and especially, you know, against a rival school like FAU in the conference?
Just excited to get Richard Williams here. You know, unfortunately, that kid's changing their mind through this process when you're talking to 17 and 18-year-old young men, and this is one of the biggest decisions of their lives. For most of them, it is the biggest decision, and through that process, there's going to be players that decide to go to a different place than they originally did. I'm just excited to get Richard Williams, the offensive lineman and kid, here. There was no motive in terms of what school he was committed to. Just excited that he's coming here. And we wanted to sign 3 to 4 offensive linemen. We liked Richard in camp. And as we move forward on it, we brought him in and continued to build the relationship, and it worked out where he was able to become an Owl.
How do you feel like the other side of the other front, the defensive line, shapes up from last year to this year with the signing of a new D-line?
You know, it's you talk about making sure you're staying on task with your needs. Some of our needs targets adjusted as we went through the season, as we watched our young defensive linemen, our guys that were redshirted and on scout team, as we watched them develop, because we signed a lot of defensive linemen a year ago. And we were going to take a couple more this year than we did. As we watched those guys develop through the season, we felt like we didn't maybe need to sign as many this year. So Stephen Leggett is a great addition, a defensive tackle, to find guys that are in the 270-pound range that can really move, and he's wrestling right now, so he's going to put on weight pretty quickly, and he's a good wrestler, and he's from Glade Central, and there's a lot to be said for that also, because he's going to compete.
And also with that, Brandon Bryant was rehabbing pretty well right now?
Yeah, rehab's going well. Everything is on track, a little bit ahead, but we're being smart with it. We're not going to rush him into do anything, but I'm excited about where he is.
Your assessment of this class, is it where you would have thought it would be entering January? Is it? I mean, how do you measure as you're going along, and how do you put a final grade on it?
Did you fulfill your needs? Were you honest the whole way through to high school coaches that you're going to be dealing with your entire time here? We did that. Did you have a plan if something changed so that you continued to go along the path of filling your needs as a football team? I feel like we did all those things and did it well. in terms of getting a grade, I'd give our assistant coaches an A in terms of what we were able to accomplish with this class.
How important for your sanity, I guess, emotional state, was it to get Burden on board last night as opposed to having to wait a little bit longer to see how the day's events played out?
Well, it fit right into our plan. Like I said, when things change and things adjust, do you have a plan? And we clearly did. So we knew that we were shooting for 4 linebackers. We ended up signing 4 linebackers and 4 that we're very excited about. So that's a big part of recruiting, is understanding that things are going to happen, that you've got to continue to maintain relationships. And that put us in position where we got a kid who had a really, really good senior year who has talent.
You sound pretty, comfortable and pretty, happy with the way things have gone.
Mm-hmm.
If this is sort of the victory you wanted, would you say that this is even more pivotal moment than, say, any of the wins last year? I mean, how would you rank?
You talking about in the recruiting process, taking this day to a year ago?
Yeah.
I just think it's different, Nate, and when you're coming in and you have roughly 6 weeks to put together a class, and very excited about that class. I mean, you look at the contributions of Buddy Howell, and again, some of these D linemen that Chuck, you saw because you're at practice most days, and Nate, you saw some, and their progress is exciting, and this freshman class that played for us this past year will have an impact on the future. It's different because we've been recruiting the majority of this class for 13 months. We're deep into relationships with a lot of kids from the 2016 class. Segue for you on your warning. You don't have to type that, of course. But again, you're 13 months in, and guys, we've got relationships with some kids that we've had for a long time that it didn't work out for them to come here. That's part of it, and those are stories that'll never get written or typed. But you build some really close relationships with some amazing people, and that to me is the reward of recruiting. I love recruiting. I love walking into a home and feeling the family's pride in the young man that is making this decision. Wherever he ends up going, there's nothing like it, because it is a special opportunity, and the amount of things that some of these families have been through and the love you feel walking into a front door, you can't get that, I don't think, in any other way other than to go through the process for 13 months. And now I travel and see all of our commitments and get to go into that home oftentimes for that final piece, and I love it.
Would you say that this is the biggest moment or the best moment or the best day in the program's history since you came on board?
I'd say it's a part of the process, to be quite honest with you. We won today.
What, you alluded to some of the guys that might have been committed to you for a while and ended up not signing with you.
Mm-hmm.
It seems like their commitment, even though they weren't here, carried some weight in building the guys that ended up here. Is that a fair assessment?
I think it's a very fair assessment, and quite honestly, I think it is a tribute to the potential of this program. Some of the guys you're referring to, let's just call it what it is, had big time opportunities, traditional opportunities. They allowed a number of the people that are in our class to recognize that Florida Atlantic is also a big time opportunity. It brought people on campus. It allowed us to build relationships to the point where we've got the opportunity to sign a special class, which we did.
Could you speak more on the idea or the thought process of only bringing in Parr as the only quarterback commit? Did he just wow you guys that much during the recruiting process to only solidify on just one guy coming into this year's class?
What you do is you take each position and you target how many you want to carry on scholarship, okay? So for example, we want to carry 15 O-linemen, we want to carry 4 quarterbacks, we want to carry 7 D tackles, 7 D ends, and you can go on down through the board in terms of how many you want to create balance in your roster. 4 quarterbacks. Daniel Parr became our 4th scholarship quarterback, so it puts us in balance. Okay, if we weren't graduating any this next year, we may consider not taking a quarterback. We are graduating 1, so the odds are we'll take 1 next year. So it's really more about roster management than it is anything else, but we are certainly excited that Daniel Parr is the one that we got.
I know on your guys' list, you have a few kids who can play different positions. For someone like James Brunson, I mean, will he be used primarily as a wide receiver, or how much thought can you put into it before getting the
Yeah.
letter to that?
We took him with the thought process of he's a receiver primarily. Where we see him as a possible hybrid is he's most likely in the slot position, but could do some things. He's got some length, Nate, so he could do some things at the outside receiver position as well. So that's where his versatility lies right now.
Do you have anybody who might step into Lucky Whitehead's shoes?
Well,
Yikes. I'll tell you right now. Sorry.
no problem. Bussy is someone who has, yeah, I mean, really, I'm thinking on roster right now. Bussy, you know, he is kind of being announced with this class, but Trey Rodriguez is someone that is excited. Strength coaches and players. I've heard a lot from our players about some of the things he brings to the table. You can't replace Lucky's production. You can't count on replacing that with one guy. It's going to take a couple to be able to do what he did this past year, because Lucky's special. Hopefully we get to that point as we move through the season. Didn't take my segue, Chuck.
I'll do it.
No, I'm kidding.
I know the majority of national signing sort of ends today, or sort of completed, but are there kids that you have talked to today who have yet to commit and possibly think about bringing in?
There's not, no. Right now we're done with this class, and no, so that's it.
Do you feel like you're behind for 2016 without a commitment already?
I don't. You know, you think you think back to a year ago. To go back to the question you just asked me. You know, some of those guys that had committed to us around this time are what helped galvanize us. That has happened. That recognition that this can be a place that continues to grow is there. We've got relationships with a lot of players in this area that we've already built that I can't name by name. That we have kids that are already set to come down and see us, and they know that our junior date is whenever they want to set a junior date, and we'll make it for them. So we're excited about. Thank you. We're excited about continuing to build those relationships.
Is it important to get 1 or 2 on board early just to try to get that momentum again, or is each class kind of its own little entity?
They are. They are their own entity. So I think when we get a few kids that are ready to jump in the boat, we'll make sure it's the right fit.
How much of a selling point has the stadium become?
It's huge. I think back to, I think I probably told this story in here, but I'll tell it again. We had a team camp in the summer. Lightning delays, we were doing it on our practice fields, and they got to a point where it was too dark, so we ended up coming in here into the stadium. And the amount of, I mean, we walked in, what, Jared, 300-400 kids at least. We walked them all in there, and the amount of kids I hear within earshot saying, wow, I had no idea, said a lot. You know, when we have that home opener against Miami, I think there's going to be thousands of people that walk in and say that same type of thing, that this is a beautiful stadium right here up off Glades that we can come to even more. I talked to, someone in your guys' business on the radio today, Mark, who him and his family came to the bowl game and since then have bought 5 season tickets. I mean, those are the kind of things that excite you about where we can go.
To transition a little bit, the schedule was released a few days ago. Just what are your initial thoughts of it? And I know we talked about last year about getting 6 home games.
Yeah, that's the first thing that jumps out to me is we have 6 home games. We have another game in state up in Gainesville. Obviously having Miami in our stadium is something we're very excited about. And there are other good teams that are coming here as well, with Rice and Marshall comes here, and MTSU, make sure I don't screw any of this up. And, you know, Buffalo, I think the world of Lance Leipold. I know Lance who comes from Stevens Point. We go back, geez, he was at UNO and I was a GA at Iowa State in the mid-90s. And he had, I don't know, I'm bragging about him, but he had more national titles than he had losses. So Buffalo is going to be a very well-coached team. It's an exciting schedule, and You know, I think the bye week, if memory serves me right, is after the 4th week. So the 5th week is a bye week, and I think that falls at a good time. So this is a schedule we are excited about for a number of reasons.
How big of a selling point was the new facility that will be built sometime next 3, maybe 4 years?
You know, it's interesting you asked that. I think it added to the legitimacy of our movement, but there was no one in this class that made the decision because of it. It added to the fact that, yes, we are on a track to continue growing as a program, but the relationships and the belief in a lot of things in combination with that helped seal a lot of these kids.
When you think about the schedule as a whole, I mean, it's markedly different from last year. Where you come in and there's Nebraska and Alabama.
Is that where we went?
Indeed, yeah, and a trip to Wyoming on
Yeah.
3 out of 4. I mean, just how much of a relief is it that to just have something different or not particularly that schedule?
Last year had its challenges. To go to 2 programs that have a lot of tradition and we're in the place we were in helped us identify some things. You know, we come back home, we win the first home game, and then we go to Wyoming, and it slips through our fingers. Who knows what happens, guys, if that doesn't happen at the Wyoming game, but bottom line is we need to win games in the 4th quarter, irregardless of schedule or who we're playing, and that's going to be one of our goals in this offseason.